The sky above Metropolis tore open like fabric surrendering to divine wrath. It wasn't the usual boom tube signature, no geometric precision of new god technology, no calculated violence of apocalypse engineering. This was something rawer, wilder. Reality itself folded inward where magic and dimensional physics collided in ways the universe hadn't anticipated. Through the shimmering wound in spacetime, figures emerged not as conquerors but as the bewildered, stepping from one world's logic into another's mythology. Rimuru Tempest hit Metropolis pavement in his human form, silver-blue hair catching afternoon sunlight that felt subtly wrong, too yellow, too energizing, charged with something his magical senses couldn't quite classify. Around him, his inner circle materialized in defensive formation. Benimaru's hand already wreathed in crimson flames that flickered uncertainly in this reality's atmosphere, Shion gripping her odachi with warrior instinct, Diablo's golden eyes scanning for threats with primordial intensity, Shuna's magical awareness reaching out and recoiling from the sheer density of power signatures saturating this city. Master Rimuru, Souei appeared from shadows that seemed less cooperative than usual, his voice tight with concern. The dimensional coordinates are impossible. We're not in our world anymore. No kidding, Rimuru thought, his great sage ability struggling to analyze the fundamental physics around them. Everything felt amplified, gravity slightly different, atmospheric composition altered, and the magical framework. It was like trying to read a book where every page was written in a different language simultaneously. His connection to the subordinate network flickered, stretched across dimensional barriers that shouldn't exist. Then he felt it, a presence approaching at speeds that defied his analytical capabilities. The red and blue blur resolved into a man floating 30 feet above them, cape billowing in wind that seemed to exist solely for dramatic effect. Superman, Rimuru's great sage, identified him from absorbed knowledge of this universe's mythology during the dimensional transit, though seeing the Man of Steel in person carried weight that data couldn't convey. This wasn't just a hero. This was a god choosing to be a man, or perhaps a man bearing godhood's unbearable burden. I don't know who you are or how you got here, Superman's voice carried across the distance with controlled authority, but Metropolis is under Justice League protection. I'm going to need you to power down those flames and explain yourselves. Benimaru's fire instinctively flared hotter, a demon's pride responding to challenge. Rimuru raised one hand, and the flames subsided instantly. Leadership in this moment meant recognizing when overwhelming power met its equal. We mean no harm, Rimuru called up, keeping his voice diplomatic, the skills honed through countless negotiations with demon lords and true dragons now deployed in an alien universe. We're not from this world. A dimensional accident brought us here during what I'm guessing was some kind of invasion. He gestured at the scorch marks on nearby buildings, the lingering ozone scent of boom tube technology. Superman's eyes and Rimuru's enhanced perception caught the momentary flash of red heat vision held in reserve, narrowed. You arrived during Darkseid's incursion. Convenient timing. Before Rimuru could respond, two more figures emerged from the cityscape. A woman descended with grace that made Shuna's royal bearing seem almost pedestrian, armor that spoke of ancient wars, a lasso that hummed with truth itself coiled at her hip, eyes carrying the weight of millennia. Wonder Woman. And from the shadows of a nearby rooftop, a darker silhouette swung down on a grappling line. Batman, cowled and unreadable, every movement economical and purposeful. The Trinity, DC Universe's pillars of hope, justice, and calculated paranoia, all focused on Rimuru and his circle with varying degrees of suspicion. Demon signatures, Batman's voice was gravel and midnight. Multiple high-level entities. Zatanna's wards went critical the moment you arrived. I am not your enemy, Rimuru said carefully, feeling the weight of first impressions shaping potential futures. In Tempest Federation, he'd built a nation through diplomacy backed by overwhelming force. Here, He was the unknown variable in a universe where gods walked as heroes and heroes could become tyrants. My name is Rimuru Tempest. These are my companions. We rule a federation in our world, a place where humans, monsters, and demons coexist peacefully. Demons don't do peaceful, Batman stated flatly. Diablo chuckled, the sound carrying undertones that made even Superman tense. In our world, a demon is simply a classification of power, not moral alignment. Though I confess, Dark Knight, your reputation precedes you even across dimensional barriers. A human who makes gods hesitate. Fascinating. Cut the flattery, Wonder Woman stepped forward, hand resting on her lasso. If you truly mean no harm, you'll submit to questioning. The lasso of Hestia compels truth. Rimuru felt his companion's shift, battle-ready. A year ago, such a demand might have sparked conflict, but leadership meant knowing when to yield ground to gain trust. I'll submit to your lasso, but my people remain free. If your magic harms me, they will respond. Understood. Batman and Superman exchanged glances, some wordless communication born from years of partnership. Finally, Superman nodded. Agreed, but we're doing this at the Watchtower, not in the middle of Metropolis. The Watchtower, Justice League's orbital headquarters, Rimuru's great sage supplied. Perfect surveillance position, tactical advantage, home territory for Earth's mightiest heroes. Walking into a potential trap but refusing meant confirming their suspicions. Lead the way, Rimuru said. The boom tube that opened, proper new god technology this time, felt like stepping into organized violence compared to their chaotic arrival. As they crossed dimensions to the Watchtower, Rimuru caught Benimaru's eye. His first subordinate, his friend, the warrior who'd followed him from the start. The fire demon's expression asked the silent question, should we fight our way out if this goes wrong? Rimuru gave the smallest head shake. Not yet. They were strangers in a universe where Superman once became a dictator in some timeline, where Batman kept plans to kill his own teammates, where Wonder Woman's warrior code sometimes meant lethal justice. Power alone wouldn't build bridges here. They needed to prove they were more than just another threat. The Watchtower's briefing room was designed for intimidation, curved screens displaying Earth below, tactical stations monitoring global threats, and a round table where the Justice League sat in judgment. Superman at center, Batman to his right, analyzing data, Wonder Woman to his left. Radiating warrior assessment. Behind them, other heroes. The Flash, vibrating slightly with barely contained energy. Green Lantern, ring glowing with emerald readiness. Cyborg, technological eye scanning Rimuru's companions with Mother Box-enhanced processors. Martian Manhunter, telepathic presence carefully not invading minds but certainly sensing surface thoughts. This was a trial by Pantheon. Wonder Woman held out the lasso of Hestia. Speak your truth, Rimuru Tempest. Why are you really here? The golden rope settled around Rimuru's wrist, and reality itself demanded honesty. He felt the magic, different from his world's framework but no less absolute, compelling truth from his core. We didn't choose to come here, Rimuru said, words flowing with supernatural authenticity. A magical experiment in our world intersected with boom tube technology from what we now know was Darkseid's invasion. The dimensional collision threw us across realities. I don't know if we can return home. I don't know what happens to my nation without us, but I swear on everything I've built, we are not your enemies unless you make us so. The lasso glowed brighter, confirming absolute truth. And what exactly did you build? Batman's voice cut through. You said you rule a federation. What kind of ruler are you? The question carried weight beyond curiosity. This was the test. In a universe where Superman's quest for peace became a totalitarian regime, where absolute power corrupted absolutely, what kind of leader was a demon lord who commanded beings capable of destroying cities? The kind who believes protecting my people justifies any action, Rimuru answered, the lasso ensuring brutal honesty. I've killed those who threatened them. I've absorbed their powers, erased them from existence. I've made choices that haunt me, but I'd make again. I'm not a hero by your definition. I'm a ruler who does whatever is necessary to ensure my nation's survival and prosperity. Silence filled the watchtower. Flash stopped vibrating. Green Lantern's ring flared brighter. Batman's eyes narrowed behind his cowl. Superman leaned forward. That's the same logic that starts every dictatorship. Perhaps, Rimuru met his gaze steadily, the lasso preventing any deflection. Or perhaps it's the wisdom of a leader who's seen what happens when you hesitate to protect those you love. I've read your history through the dimensional transit data. I know about injustice, the timeline where you became what you feared. But I also know you chose differently here. You maintain your ideals despite the cost. I respect that, even if I don't share your absolute adherence to it. You'd kill if you thought it necessary, Wonder Woman stated. Yes, even innocence if it meant saving your people. The lasso tightened, demanding truth beyond comfort. I'd find another way. I'd sacrifice myself first, but if the choice was my people or strangers, I protect my own. Batman stood, data pad in hand. You're too dangerous to leave unsupervised. And you're too paranoid to trust, but Superman does anyway, Rimuru countered. I'm not asking for blind faith. I'm asking for a chance to prove we're not the threat you fear. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you want to see them in down in the comments below. Hope shines brightest in the darkest night. Superman and Batman locked eyes again, that wordless communication. Finally, Superman turned back to Rimuru. You'll be monitored. You and your people will have provisional freedom, but any hostile action ends that immediately. Prove you're what you claim, leaders who protect rather than conquer. And if we can't return home, Shuna asked quietly, speaking for the first time, our nation needs us. Then you'll face the same choice we all do, Superman said. And for the first time, Rimuru heard something other than suspicion in his voice, empathy. You'll decide what kind of person you want to be in a world that's not your own. As the lasso came off, Rimuru felt the weight of that question settle into his core. In his world, he'd built Tempest Federation on principles of strength through unity, protection through power. But this universe operated on different rules, where symbols mattered as much as strength, where the line between hero and tyrant was razor-thin, where gods walked among men and sometimes forgot their humanity. The Justice League was giving them a chance. Now they had to decide what to do with it. And somewhere beyond the Watchtower's walls, in the depths of Apocalypse, Darkseid's Omega-powered gaze turned toward Earth with new interest. A demon lord and primordial demons, beings whose power signatures resonated with new god frequencies. Variables in the eternal equation. The Lord of Apocalypse smiled. The safe house Batman provided sat in Gotham's East End, a calculated insult wrapped in pragmatism. Not Metropolis's hopeful skyline or the Watchtower's orbital vantage, but a renovated warehouse in the city where hope came to die, and paranoia was survival instinct. Rimuru understood the message. You claim to protect your people. Welcome to a city that eats protectors alive. 3 days in DC Universe, and reality's fundamental differences gnawed at him constantly. His magic worked, but sluggishly, like running through water. Great Sage struggled to analyze powers that defied logical categorization. How did you quantify hope as a literal energy source for Blue Lanterns, or speed that broke time itself, or a Kryptonian solar-powered godhood? The subordinate network remained fractured, his connection to Veldora and the others back home a phantom ache of severed bonds. Master Rimuru, Benimaru entered from the warehouse's upper level, flames dancing across his knuckles in frustration. Diablo's discovered something. You need to see this. The primordial demon had converted the warehouse's basement into an analysis chamber, arcane symbols mixing with scavenged technology in ways that would give Constantine nightmares. Diablo looked up from a circle of floating magical constructs, golden eyes gleaming with disturbed fascination. This universe's magical framework is aggressive, Diablo said without preamble. Our demon classifications trigger automatic hostile responses from established powers. The Lords of Order have already marked us. Shazam's pantheon views us as chaos-aligned. Even the green, this world's plant consciousness, registers demonic presence as potential blight. Can you adapt our signatures? Rimuru asked, watching magical formulas shift and reconfigure. Given time, yes, but there's a complication. Diablo gestured and a magical projection materialized, a swirling vortex of orange and black energy. Darkseid. His Omega energy shares frequencies with primordial demon essence. This universe might classify us as proto-new gods rather than demons, which means he'll take interest, Rimuru finished grimly. We're not just unknown variables, we're potential recruits or threats to his cosmic hierarchy. Shuna appeared in the doorway, her usually serene expression troubled. We have visitors, the magical kind. Constantine stood on the warehouse's main floor, cigarette dangling from lips, trench coat somehow pristine despite Gotham's persistent grime. Beside him, Zatanna, top hat, fishnets, and an aura of stage magic concealing genuine power. They weren't alone. A golden helmet floated behind them, emanating Lord of Order authority that made Rimuru's demon lord instincts bristle. Right then, Constantine exhaled smoke that formed impossible patterns. Let's have a chat about you lot breaking every magical law by existing in our reality, shall we, Dr. Fate? Or rather, the helmet of Nabu worn by whatever unfortunate host currently bore its burden, spoke with layered voices echoing through dimensions. Demon Lord Rimuru Tempest, your presence creates cascade failures in the established order. The balance between chaos and order was not designed to accommodate extraversal demon kings. Rimuru felt his companions tense. Diablo's smile held primordial danger. Benimaru's flames ignited fully. Shun's hand moved toward her blade. Stand down, Rimuru commanded quietly, then addressed the magical trinity before him. We didn't ask to be here, but we're not leaving just because our existence is inconvenient. Not asking you to leave, mate, Constantine flicked ash. Asking you to understand the playing field. See, magic in DC isn't just power, it's politics. Gods, demons, angels, cosmic abstracts, all fighting for influence. You show up classified as demon lords, suddenly every faction's recalculating their positions. Zatanna's voice carried more sympathy than Constantine's cynicism. The presence, capital P, this reality's ultimate authority, directly intervene much. But the specter, phantom stranger, angels, and demons below, they notice when new players enter the game. Some are curious, others are hostile, most are opportunistic. We've survived worse, Benimaru growled. Have you? Dr. Fate's helm tilted. Survived a Kryptonian moving at light speed, a speedster who can vibrate through dimensions. Darkseid's Omega beams that erase you from existence retroactively. This universe operates at scales that devour the unprepared. Rimuru had fought true dragons, consumed apocalyptic threats, and ascended to demon lord through baptism of souls. But honesty, a trait the lasso had forced him to embrace, demanded acknowledgement. What do you want from us? Constantine grinned, and Rimuru recognized a dealmaker when he saw one. Information exchange. You tell us about your world's magic system and we help you adapt to ours. Zatanna here thinks your skill absorption ability could be revolutionary if properly integrated with DC's framework. And he paused for dramatic effect. I want insurance. Against what? Against whatever's coming. Darkseid took a special interest in your arrival. That boom tube malfunction that brought you here. Not entirely accidental. Someone on Apocalypse was testing dimensional breach technology. You got caught in the crossfire, but your power signature during transit. It pinged on every cosmic radar from here to Oa. You're not just refugees anymore. You're pieces on a board game played by gods. The warehouse's industrial lighting flickered. Cyborg materialized through the wall, literally phasing through concrete using mother box technology, his mechanical eye glowing red with analysis protocols. Sorry to interrupt the magic hour, Cyborg's voice carried urgency, but we've got a situation. Amanda Waller just issued a formal request through Justice League channels. She wants to meet with Rimuru and his circle. Now. Absolutely not, Batman's voice preceded his physical arrival, emerging from shadows that shouldn't have hidden his bulk. Waller sees you as either recruitment opportunities for Task Force X or threats to neutralize. Neither ends well. The Dark Knight speaks truth, Dr. Fate intoned. Amanda Waller operates beyond heroic limitations. She would weaponize your abilities without hesitation. Rimuru felt the trap closing, not physical but political. Every faction wanted something. Justice League wanted assurance of non-threat status. Magic users wanted knowledge and alliance. Government agencies wanted control or elimination. And somewhere in the cosmic hierarchy, worse things stirred. What would you do? Rimuru asked Batman directly. If you were in my position, stranger in an unfamiliar world, every power structure treating you as a variable to contain or exploit. Batman's cowl concealed expression, but his voice carried grudging respect. I'd make myself indispensable, prove value that outweighs perceived threat. Demonstrate competence without revealing full capabilities, and I'd find allies who want partnership, not control. Easier said than done when everyone's got an angle, Constantine muttered. Then we'll be direct, Rimuru decided. Cyborg, tell Waller we'll meet, but on neutral ground with Justice League observation. She wants to assess us. Let her. We've got nothing to hide that the lasso didn't already reveal. Zatanna whistled appreciatively. Bold. Waller eats bold for breakfast. So did the demon lords I defeated, Rimuru replied. I'm still here. The meeting location was Belle Rive Penitentiary, Amanda Waller's fortress of expendable assets and barely legal operations. The irony of meeting in a prison wasn't lost on Rimuru as they arrived via boom tube, Batman and Wonder Woman accompanying them as League observers. Waller sat behind reinforced glass in her command center, surrounded by monitors displaying psychological profiles being compiled in real time. Behind her, metahuman containment cells held the Suicide Squad's current roster, Deadshot checking his weapons with professional detachment, Harley Quinn bouncing on her heels with manic energy, Killer Croc growling from his reinforced cell, Captain Boomerang looking supremely bored. Rimuru Tempest, Waller's voice could cut steel. Demon Lord, reality warper, leader of an extraversal nation. By any reasonable assessment, you're an Omega-level threat. And you specialize in controlling Omega-level threats, Rimuru observed of the squad. Is this a recruitment pitch or a threat assessment? Both. I've read Batman's reports, watched your lasso interrogation. You're a ruler who does whatever's necessary to protect your people. That's either a massive liability or a tremendous asset, depending on whose side you're on. We're not on anyone's side, Shuna interjected coolly. We're trying to survive in an unfamiliar reality. Waller's smile held no warmth. Nobody's neutral in my world. You either serve America's interests or you're a problem to be solved. Your world, Diablo's voice carried primordial amusement, is not our concern. We owe this nation nothing. You owe this planet everything, Wonder Diana's voice cut through the tension. You exist here by cosmic accident. That grants you no rights beyond what we choose to extend. Rimuru felt the carefully maintained diplomatic balance cracking. This was the test Batman warned about, the moment where strength met authority and one had to yield or fight. What exactly are you offering, Director Waller? Rimuru asked carefully. Cooperation. You help with situations requiring your unique abilities, dimensional threats, magical crises, opponents that conventional heroes can't handle. In exchange, you get resources, protection from hostile factions, and most importantly, you don't end up in cells next to Killer Croc. Slavery with better marketing, Benimaru snarled. Partnership with clear boundaries, Waller corrected. The Justice League operates on idealism. I operate on results. Your willingness to do whatever's necessary makes you more compatible with my methods than theirs. Batman stepped forward. That's enough. They're not joining Task Force X. They're also not Justice League material, Waller countered. Too willing to kill, too focused on their own people over planetary concerns. They don't fit your code, Bruce, but they fit mine perfectly. The tension crystallized into a choice. Join Waller's morally gray operations and gain government backing. Reject her and make an enemy of America's most dangerous bureaucrat. Seek Justice League full membership, and compromise on the willingness to protect his people by any means, or forge an independent path and face all factions' suspicion. Before Rimuru could respond, alarms screamed through Bel Rive. Every monitor flashed red. Cyborg's technological components sparked with interference. Boom tube signature, Cyborg managed through static. Massive, multiple origins, this is. The walls exploded inward, not with conventional force but with Omega energy, black and red annihilation that erased matter from existence. Through the smoking breach, figures emerged that made even Diablo tense with recognition. Female Furies, Darkseid's elite warriors. Big Barda's Megarod hummed with new god power. Lashana's steel whips crackled with apocalypse technology. Gilatina's blades gleamed with execution edge. And leading them, Granny Goodness, ancient, twisted, radiating the corrupt love of Apocalypse's most horrifying maternal figure. Demon Lord Rimuru Tempest, Granny's voice was poisoned honey. Lord Darkseid extends his invitation. You will come to Apocalypse. Your skills will serve the true God. Your resistance is optional. Rimuru felt great sage analyzing the threat, new god physiology, mother box enhancement, combat experience spanning millennia, backed by the military might of an entire planet dedicated to conquest. Batman and Wonder Woman moved into combat stances. Waller's squad cells began opening, expendable assets deployed against a cosmic threat. Constantine and Zatanna's magical shields manifested, but Rimuru's circle moved faster. Benimaru's hell flare erupted with temperatures that made the Fury's energy weapons look like candles. Shin blurred forward with Hercules' strength, her blade meeting Big Barda's Megarod with a shockwave that shattered reinforced walls. Souei disappeared into the shadows, reappearing behind Lashana with a blade at throat. Diablo's primordial aura expanded, and for the first time since arriving in the DC universe, Rimuru felt his butler's true power unfettered, ancient demon meeting new god and finding them disappointingly mortal. I declined Darkseid's invitation, Rimuru said quietly, gluttony skill activating, analyzing the Omega energy signatures, beginning the adaptation process Great Sage had struggled with since arrival. Tell your master that demon lords bow to no one. Not even self-proclaimed gods. Granny Goodness smiled, and it was horrible. Such spirit. Lord Darkseid predicted defiance. He sent us not to recruit you, child, but to test you, to see if you're worthy of his personal attention. She raised one gnarled hand, and reality twisted. Another boom tube, larger, angrier, pulling not toward Apocalypse but toward. They're trying to open a portal to the source wall. Dr. Fate's voice echoed through dimensions as the golden helmet appeared. If they succeed, the cosmic boundary will, the warehouse, the prison, reality itself screamed as Darkseid's true purpose became clear. This wasn't recruitment. It was a trap designed to either force Rimuru's submission or eliminate him by cosmic exile. And caught in the gravitational pull of the source wall's eternal prison, Rimuru had seconds to decide. Fight the Furies and risk being pulled into oblivion, or submit to Darkseid's will and betray everything he'd built. His people looked to him for orders. Batman calculated escape vectors. Wonder Woman is prepared to challenge the gods. Constantine readied dark magic. Waller observed with clinical interest. And Rimuru Tempest, demon lord displaced across dimensions, made his choice. Rimuru's answer came not in words, but in action that redefined the playing field. Raphael, he whispered to the ultimate skill that had evolved from Great Sage, analyze the source wall's dimensional anchor, find the mathematical flaw. Notice, source wall operates on absolute cosmic law. However, boom tube technology creates temporary vulnerability during transit. Exploitation is possible if do it. His body dissolved into slime, true form, the aspect he'd hidden since arriving in this universe of gods and symbols. Not the humanoid diplomat or the demon lord, but something fundamentally alien to DC's reality. Fluid physics that didn't belong, a being that existed between states of matter, consciousness distributed across every molecule. The source wall's gravitational pull, designed to trap solid beings, energy constructs, and even conceptual entities, suddenly grasped at something with no fixed form to anchor. Rimuru flowed around the cosmic suction like water through fingers, then did something the Furies never anticipated. He consumed the boom tube itself. Gluttony activated at maximum capacity, analyzing and devouring the new god technology mid-transit. Apocalypse engineering, fourth world physics, mother box protocols, all flooded into his essence as the portal collapsed inward, imploding with energies that would have vaporized city blocks. Rimuru contained it, compressed the explosion into his slime form, absorbed the Omega energy residue, and when he reformed into human shape, his eyes glowed with newfound understanding. Boom tube technology acquired, he announced calmly. Mother box interface protocols integrated, fourth world dimensional mathematics. Fascinating. Granny Goodness's smile finally cracked. Impossible, only new gods can. Benimaru's hell flare cut her off, forcing the Furies into defensive formation. Big Barda's Megarod deflected the flames, but Shin was already there, her Hercules strength-enhanced strike sending the towering warrior crashing through Belle Rive's reinforced walls into the Louisiana swamp beyond. Diablo moved like primordial inevitability. His shadows weren't mere darkness but the concept of absence given form, the void before creation, the nothing that preceded everything. Lashana's energy whips passed through space where the demon should have been, and suddenly he stood behind her, one hand resting almost gently on her shoulder. "You fight well for a slave," Diablo observed, "but you've never faced something older than your master's cruelty." He didn't kill her, didn't need to. The primordial aura that emanated from his touch simply convinced her nervous system that resistance was cosmically futile. She collapsed, conscious but paralyzed by existential terror only demons who'd witnessed the birth of darkness could invoke. Souei had already eliminated 3 Furies through precision strikes, not lethal but utterly incapacitating. His shadows moved independent of light sources, defying DC's physics through sheer skill. Wonder Woman stood frozen, lasso ready but unnecessary. Batman's combat computer recalibrated threat assessments upward. Even Waller leaned forward, interest sharpening to hunger. "Stand down," Rimuru commanded his circle. They obeyed instantly, returning to formation around him despite the remaining Furies' hostile postures. Granny Goodness regarded him with new calculation. "You've made an enemy of Darkseid today." "No," Rimuru corrected. "I've demonstrated that forcing demon lords into servitude costs more than it gains. If Darkseid wants an alliance, he negotiates. If he wants war," Rimuru let the captured Omega energy dance across his fingertips, "he'll discover that we're not the refugees he assumed." The remaining Furies retreated through emergency boom tubes, carrying their fallen. Granny Goodness lingered a moment longer. "Lord Darkseid sees all possible futures, child. This defiance was calculated. You've merely chosen the path with more interesting suffering." She vanished in a flash of apocalypse red. Silence filled Belle Rive's shattered command center. The Suicide Squad stood gawking from their damaged cells. Deadshot actually whistled appreciation. Harley Quinn clapped enthusiastically. Batman spoke first. "You absorbed boom tube technology, just consumed and integrated it. My unique skill allows analysis and acquisition of abilities," Rimuru explained, feeling the weight of revealed capabilities. "So much for not showing full power. Though it's significantly hampered in this universe, your reality's laws are stubborn. You just defied the source wall and absorbed new god tech." Cyborg's processors worked overtime. "That's not hampered. That's Omega-level reality warping." Waller's expression shifted from calculating to predatory. "That settles it. You're joining Task Force X. That's not a request." Actually, Constantine materialized from shadows where he'd been observing, cigarette somehow still lit. "It bloody well is. You saw what they did to Darkseid's elite. You really want to threaten them with imprisonment." They need us, Waller stated flatly. Stranded in an unfamiliar universe, no way home, every cosmic faction now aware of their existence. They need resources, protection, and legitimacy. I provide all three in exchange for service. Service is freely given or it's slavery, Wonder Woman's voice carried Amazonian certainty. The Justice League offers partnership, equals working toward the common good, not operatives following orders. Except they don't follow your code, Waller countered. You saw Diablo. That wasn't heroic restraint, that was a predator choosing not to kill. The League can't accept members willing to execute threats. Batman's silence spoke volumes. He agreed with Waller's assessment, even if he disapproved of her methods. Rimuru felt the political trap closing differently now. Demonstrate too much power and become too valuable to ignore. Showing willingness to kill becomes incompatible with Justice League ideals. Refuse all factions, make enemies of everyone. There's a third option, Dr. Fate's voice echoed as the helmet descended into the ruins. The magical community operates independent of both government and Justice League authority. Constantine's House of Mystery, Shadow Pact, the Sentinels of Magic, we handle threats beyond conventional heroism's reach. Your demonic classification, your willingness to take necessary action, your extraversal knowledge, you'd fit our paradigm. You want them in the magic community. Zatanna appeared beside Constantine, top hat somehow undamaged despite the carnage. The Lords of Order will have collective seizures. The Lords of Order, Fate replied with unusual warmth, need to adapt to a multiverse where their rigid classifications no longer suffice. These beings are neither pure chaos nor order. They're something else, something that might bridge the eternal conflict. Constantine grinned. Also, having a demon lord who can eat boom tubes would be bloody useful against the next demonic invasion. And trust me, there's always a next demonic invasion. Before Rimuru could respond, Cyborg Systems screamed alert again. We've got incoming, multiple signatures, Justice League Priority Alpha. The sky above Bel Rive tore open, not boom tubes this time but something older, more fundamental. Green light, emerald, and absolute carved reality into geometric perfection. Through the construct gateway, a figure descended, wreathed in willpower made manifest. Hal Jordan, Green Lantern of Sector 2814. And he wasn't alone. The entire Green Lantern Corps strike team materialized, 6 lanterns, rings blazing, construct weapons aimed at Rimuru and his circle. Behind Hal, John Stewart's tactical mind is already calculating firing solutions. Guy Gardner looked eager for confrontation. Kyle Rayner's artistic imagination shaped constructs of disturbing beauty and violence. Rimuru Tempest, Hal's voice carried the authority of intergalactic law enforcement. The Guardians of Oa have designated you and your companions as potential cosmic threats. You're coming with us for evaluation. Bloody hell, Constantine muttered. Everyone wants a piece. Batman stepped forward. The Justice League has jurisdiction here, Jordan. Stand down. Earth jurisdiction doesn't apply to extraversal entities, John Stewart countered, his marine discipline evident. The Guardian's authority supersedes planetary concerns when cosmic security is threatened. Rimuru felt exhaustion creeping in, not physical but existential. 3 days in this universe and he'd faced interrogation by the Trinity, magical faction politics, government recruitment pressure, apocalypse invasion, and now intergalactic police demanding his compliance. In the Tempest Federation, his word was law. Here, his existence was everybody's problem to solve. No, Rimuru said simply. The lantern's rings flared brighter. That wasn't a request, Hal warned. Neither was mine, Rimuru replied and let a fraction of his demon lord aura manifest. The weight of consumed souls, the authority of absolute rulership, the presence that made true dragons acknowledge him as equal. I've been patient, submitted to lasso interrogation, accepted monitoring, listened to every faction's demands, but I am a sovereign ruler, not a criminal to be detained on suspicion. Your power level alone justifies Oa's concern, Kyle Rayner observed, ring-feeding him threat analysis. You're registering as near Guardians-level reality manipulation potential. And how many Guardians-level threats currently serve in the Green Lantern Corps? Diablo inquired with dangerous politeness. How many Kryptonians walk Earth unimprisoned? How many new gods live free despite their apocalyptic potential? Your double standard is showing, Lantern. Guy Gardner bristled. You calling us hypocrites, Demon? I'm stating facts, Diablo smiled. You accept Superman's godhood because he was raised human. You tolerate Wonder Woman's warrior code because she's proven herself. But we, displaced through a dimensional accident, receive immediate suspicion and demands for compliance. Interesting. Wonder Woman's expression flickered, recognition that the demon spoke an uncomfortable truth. Hal Jordan's ring pulsed with communication from Oa. His jaw tightened. The Guardians are reconsidering. They're receiving reports about your confrontation with the Furies. Darkseid taking personal interest changes the calculation. Of course it does, Waller observed cynically. He's more valuable as a potential asset than an imprisoned unknown. That's not, Hal started, then stopped, because it absolutely was the calculation being made. Rimuru felt the political landscape crystallizing. Every faction wanted him positioned on their board. Justice League wanted him monitored. Waller wanted him weaponized. The magical community wanted him integrated. Green Lantern Corps wanted him evaluated. And Darkseid wanted him conquered or destroyed. Nobody asked what he wanted. I'm making this simple, Rimuru announced, authority in his voice that brooked no argument. My circle and I will operate independently. We'll help against genuine cosmic threats because we're stuck on this planet, and its survival is our survival. We'll cooperate with Justice League on matters requiring our unique abilities. We'll assist the magical community with dimensional and demonic issues. But we're not joining anyone's organization. We're not submitting to anyone's authority. And we're certainly not becoming government assets. You can't just, Waller began. Director Waller, Batman interrupted, and there was steel beneath the gravel. Let it go. Forcing compliance will only create the enemy you're trying to prevent. This is the compromise. Superman's voice crackled through Cyborg's communication systems. Batman's right. We've pushed hard enough. Rimuru, your circle accepts Justice League oversight and cooperation protocols. Oversight, yes. We'll check in, coordinate on major threats except monitoring, Rimuru confirmed. But operational independence remains non-negotiable. The silence stretched as various factions calculated acceptable losses versus potential gains. Finally, Hal Jordan's ring dimmed slightly. Oa accepts, for now, but if you step out of line, if you become the threat our models predict, the Corps will respond with full force. Understood, Rimuru said, then added with a slight smile, though I should mention, I've now analyzed Green Lantern ring energy signatures, just in case future misunderstandings occur. Hal's expression flickered between respect and alarm. You really did just absorb boom tube technology and willpower construct data simultaneously, didn't you? Adaptation is survival, Rimuru replied. And we're very good at surviving. As the lanterns departed through their construct gateway and Waller retreated to damage control, Rimuru finally allowed exhaustion to show. His circle gathered around him. Benimaru's fire dimmed to embers, Shin's blade sheathed, Diablo's aura contained, Souei emerging from shadows. Constantine approached, offering a flask. You handled that like someone who's negotiated with demons before. I've negotiated with worse. Rimuru accepted the flask, discovered it contained something that burned pleasantly. Demon lords make your cosmic pantheon look almost reasonable. You made enemies today, Wonder Woman observed, though her tone held less judgment than before. Darkseid doesn't forget defiance. I made my position clear, Rimuru corrected. Sometimes that's worth the cost. Batman remained in the shadows, but his voice carried grudging acknowledgement. You chose independence over easy alliances, either extremely brave or extremely foolish. Both, Rimuru admitted. But my people deserve a leader who doesn't trade freedom for convenience. As night fell over Bel Rev's ruins, as the various factions dispersed to their corners of DC's vast political landscape, Rimuru stood with his circle and felt the weight of choices made. They'd proven their strength, established their boundaries, made both allies and enemies. But Darkseid's interest, Oa's suspicion, Waller's hunger, those didn't vanish. They simply recalculated, adjusted strategies, and prepared different approaches. And somewhere in the House of Mystery, Constantine lit another cigarette and smiled. The Demon Lord didn't know it yet, but he just made the most dangerous choice possible in the DC universe. He'd become interesting to people who broke interesting things. Peace, and Rimuru should have known it wouldn't last. The safe house in Gotham had become something resembling home, Shuna establishing diplomatic connections with magical communities, Benimaru training with younger heroes who could withstand his flames, only Superboy so far, Souei conducting intelligence gathering that made even Batman uncomfortable with its thoroughness, and Diablo. Well, Diablo had taken to Gotham's shadows like he'd been born to them, which probably said something disturbing about both the demon and the city. Rimuru stood on the warehouse roof, watching Gotham's perpetual darkness punctuated by crime and desperate heroism. His connection to the subordinate network remained severed, Veldora's boisterous presence, Millam's chaotic energy, the gentle assurance of his people all reduced to phantom memories. He was adapting Great Sage, now Raphael, to DC's reality framework, but progress felt glacial compared to his world's responsive magic. Notice: anomalous energy signature detected. Source extra-dimensional. Classification: hostile intent confirmed. The warning came seconds before reality cracked. Not a boom tube, not a Green Lantern construct, something older, wronger. The sky above Gotham peeled back like infected flesh, revealing a darkness that made the city's shadows look wholesome by comparison. Through the wound in reality, figures emerged that made Rimuru's Demon Lord instincts scream warnings. They wore corrupted versions of familiar symbols. A Batman but twisted, metal armor fused with flesh, a crown of dark matter, eyes burning with Omega energy. The Batman who laughs. Behind him, other nightmare Batmen. One crackling with dark speed force lightning, another wreathed in Doomsday's bone protrusions, a third wielding a power ring that pulsed sickly yellow-green. The dark multiverse had come to prime Earth, and they weren't alone. Demon Lord Rimuru Tempest, the Batman who laughs voice was razor blades dipped in poison. Barbados sends his regards. The dark multiverse has been watching you, analyzing you, and we've determined something fascinating. More figures emerged, twisted versions of Superman, Wonder Woman, even a horrifying Flash whose speed left decay in its wake. But what made Rimuru's blood freeze was the final emergence, a corrupted version of himself. Dark Rimuru stood wreathed in shadows that consumed light, slime form corrupted into something that hurt to perceive. Demon Lord authority twisted into pure domination. This was what he could become if power's temptation won, if protecting his people meant sacrificing everything good about that protection. Magnificent, isn't it? Batman who laughs gestured at the dark reflection. Every choice has a shadow. In the dark multiverse, we found the you who chose absolute control. The you who consumed everything, worlds, dimensions, even your precious subordinate's free will, to ensure perfect protection. He's everything you fear becoming. Master Rimuru. Benimaru's shout came from below as the circle assembled, but Gotham's bat signal already blazed, and Batman himself grappled up to the rooftop, cape billowing with grim purpose. Dark multiverse incursion, Batman assessed instantly, utility belt already deploying countermeasures. We need League backup now. But the corrupted Batman moved faster. Dawnbreaker, the one wearing a twisted power ring, raised his hand and construct chains erupted from nothing, binding Batman mid-motion. The Red Death, fused with dark speed force, blurred toward Benimaru at velocities that made Barry Allen look stationary. The Devastator, half-Doomsday Nightmare, roared with enough force to shatter windows across 3 city blocks, and Dark Rimuru smiled with Rimuru's face. "Show me if you're worthy of the power you hold, Prime. Prove you're not just one bad day from becoming me." The battle erupted across Gotham's skyline with apocalyptic intensity. Diablo met the Devastator head-on, primordial demon versus corrupted Kryptonian doomsday hybrid. The shockwave of their collision leveled an abandoned factory district. Diablo's shadows attempted to consume the monster, but Doomsday Evolution adapted, bone spurs erupting with anti-magic properties that made even the ancient demon recoil. "Interesting," Diablo observed, dodging a strike that cratered pavement. "You've been engineered specifically to counter demonic abilities. How thorough." Shion engaged the Merciless, a Batman who'd stolen Wonder Woman's godhood, their blades meeting with divine resonance. Her Hercules strength matched his stolen divine power, but he fought with Bruce Wayne's tactical genius combined with warrior goddess skill. Every strike calculated, every defense perfect. "You fight well," Merciless acknowledged, "but I learned from the best before I killed her." Shion's eyes blazed with ogre fury. "Then I'll show you what happens when you steal strength without earning it." Souei faced the murder machine, a Batman fused with Cyborg after Alfred's death drove him to technological apotheosis. Shadow versus complete information awareness. Every stealth technique Souei deployed, the murder machine's processors predicted and countered. They fought in the spaces between seconds, invisible to normal perception, a duel of precision versus omniscience. Benimaru's flames met the Red Death's corrupted speed force, fire versus velocity. But this speedster didn't dodge. It absorbed heat energy to fuel impossible speeds, creating a feedback loop where Benimaru's power made his opponent stronger. "Your flames are impressive," Red Death's voice distorted through speed vibrations. "But I've stolen Barry Allen's speed and Batman's mind. You're fighting someone who can think at the speed of light and move through time itself." And Rimuru faced his nightmare self. Dark Rimuru moved like liquid malevolence, gluttony skill weaponized beyond recognition. Every ability Rimuru possessed, this shadow version had corrupted and amplified. Where Rimuru consumed to understand, Dark Rimuru consumed to dominate. Where Rimuru protected, Dark Rimuru controlled. "You feel it, don't you?" Dark Rimuru's voice was his own, stripped of compassion. "The temptation. Every time you hold back from consuming an enemy completely. Every moment, you don't just take control of your subordinates' wills to ensure perfect protection. You're weak because you still believe freedom matters more than safety." Their clash shattered reality's membrane. Slime forms collided, merged, and separated in configurations that violated physics. Rimuru deployed every skill, predator, gluttony, Raphael's analytical perfection, but his dark self countered with intimate knowledge of every technique's weakness, because he'd lived those weaknesses in a world where hesitation meant extinction. "I consumed Veldora completely," Dark Rimuru revealed. "Not partnership, total absorption. I erased Milim when she questioned my methods. I turned Tempest Federation into a hive mind where everyone thinks exactly what I need them to think. And my world, perfect. No conflict, no suffering, no freedom, but absolute peace." The words struck harder than any physical attack. This was the nightmare, the ruler so dedicated to protection that he became the threat. Batman broke free from Dawnbreaker's constructs through explosive gel and tactical brilliance, immediately coordinating. "Rimuru, they're trying to corrupt you through self-doubt. Standard dark multiverse psychological warfare. Don't engage with." The Batman who laughs laughed because of course he did. "Oh, Batsy, still trying to save everyone. That's why you fail in so many universes. But this isn't about corruption. It's about demonstration." He gestured and Gotham's sky tore wider. Through the breach, Rimuru saw his world, the Tempest Federation, under siege. Not by enemies he recognized, but by something worse, complete stagnation. His people existed in perfect static peace, no growth, no change, no life beyond mere survival. Veldora sealed completely, Milim erased from history, Everything he loved transformed into a control mechanism. That's one possible future, Batman Who Laughs explained. The dark multiverse shows all paths where hope dies, and your path, it ends in perfect peace through absolute domination. Just like Superman in Injustice, you'll justify tyranny through protection. It's inevitable. No, Rimuru snarled, pouring everything into his counterattack. I've made mistakes, questioned myself, but I'm not you because I have something you lack. What? Weakness, sentiment. People I trust to tell me when I'm wrong. Rimuru's subordinate network might be severed, but the bonds remained. Benimaru, who challenged any order that violated honor. Shion, whose loyalty came with fierce independence. Diablo, who served by choice, not compulsion. Shuna, whose wisdom tempered his decisions. Even here, displaced and desperate, they functioned as individuals united by choice, not dominated by will. That was the difference. Raphael, Rimuru commanded, his ultimate skill, analyze the dimensional breach. Show me the mathematical structure of dark multiverse access. Notice, dark matter physics identified. Dimensional instability exploitable. However, counter-strategy requires do it. Rimuru's gluttony activated at maximum theoretical capacity. But instead of consuming the dark version of himself, he consumed the dimensional breach itself. The dark multiverse connection, the doorway Barbados had opened, the very physics that allowed nightmare realities to bleed into prime Earth. Rimuru devoured it all. The pain was exquisite, dark matter poisoning his essence, nightmare logic corrupting his consciousness, alternate reality paradoxes threatening to tear his being across infinite failed timelines. But Raphael held firm, analyzing even as it calculated dissolution probability approaching certainty. He's insane, Dawnbreaker shouted, construct weapons faltering. He's consuming the dark multiverse connection directly. That's impossible. Nothing's impossible, Batman breathed, watching with horrified respect, to someone desperate enough. The dimensional breach collapsed inward, pulled into Rimuru's slime form. Dark Rimuru screamed, not in pain but in rage, as his connection to the nightmare multiverse severed. The corrupted Batman flickered, their stable existence in prime Earth suddenly unsupported. Clever, Batman Who Laughs acknowledged, though his smile never wavered. But consuming dark multiverse energy will corrupt you from within. You've just infected yourself with literal nightmare physics. Even if you survive, you'll carry that darkness forever. Then I'll carry it, Rimuru gasped, reforming into human shape, body smoking with dark matter residue. Better than letting you infect my world or this one. The Batman Who Laughs studied him with unsettling intensity. You really would sacrifice yourself. Fascinating. Most rulers talk about duty. You actually mean it. He turned to his corrupted allies. Withdraw. This timeline's contamination is complete anyway. He's carrying dark multiverse essence now. We'll see what grows from that seed. The Nightmare Batman retreated through emergency portals, not boom tubes but something that smelled of despair and failed timelines. Dark Rimuru lingered longest, eyes boring into Rimuru's soul. We'll meet again, the dark reflection promised. When you finally realize that protection and control are the same thing, when you make the choice I made. And you will, Prime. Everyone does eventually. Then they were gone, leaving Gotham's sky healing slowly, reality reasserting its dominance over nightmare physics. Rimuru collapsed, not from exhaustion but from the dark multiverse energy now coiling through his essence like a parasitic infection. He could feel it, whispers of failed timelines, visions of himself making increasingly authoritarian choices. The seductive logic that absolute power wielded absolutely was the only true protection. His circle surrounded him immediately, but Batman reached him first, gauntlets already deploying medical scanners. You consumed dark multiverse matter, Batman stated. That's lethal to most beings. Even Superman avoids direct contact. Had to close the breach, Rimuru managed through clenched teeth. Couldn't let them establish a permanent foothold. You saved Gotham, Batman acknowledged. Then quieter, maybe the world. That incursion could have cascaded into full invasion. Wonder Woman arrived via invisible jet, Superman landing seconds later, both assessing the damage. The Justice League had responded just too late to prevent the battle. What happened? Superman's X-ray vision scanned Rimuru and his expression tightened. You're corrupted. I can see dark matter in your cellular structure. He consumed a dimensional breach to the dark multiverse, Batman explained. Stopped the invasion but infected himself in the process. We need to get him to the Watchtower, Wonder Woman decided. Contain the corruption before it spreads. No, Constantine's voice preceded his appearance, cigarette smoke curling into protective wards. You take him to sterile containment, that darkness will fester. He needs magical quarantine. The House of Mystery, now. Dr. Fate materialized, helmet blazing with alarm. The dark multiverse corruption is already adapting to his demon lord essence. This could create a hybrid entity, primordial demon infected with literal nightmare physics. The cosmic implications are catastrophic. Rimuru felt his consciousness fragmenting. Raphael struggled to maintain coherence against invasive dark matter logic. His vision split between Prime Earth and visions of failed timelines, where he became the monster Dark Rimuru represented. Master Rimuru, Shuna's voice cut through the chaos, her hand gentle on his forehead. Stay with us. You've survived worse. Remember the Orc Lord, the Eastern Empire. You've always found the way forward. This is different, Rimuru whispered. This is inside me. The darkness is showing me futures where I win by becoming what I fight. Then don't fight alone. Benimaru's flames warmed without burning, familiar and grounding. You've never fought alone, that's your strength, not weakness. Diablo knelt, primordial aura steady as bedrock. Master, I have existed since before light knew darkness as separate concepts. This corruption is young, infantile compared to the true primordial void. It can be contained, mastered, even utilized if you're strong enough. Or it will consume him, Dr. Fate warned. The dark multiverse preys on fear and doubt. Every moment he questions himself feeds the infection. Batman made a decision. Constantine, get him to the House of Mystery. Zatanna, Fate, full magical quarantine. Superman, Wonder Woman, establish perimeter. If the corruption takes him fully, we may need to. He didn't finish, but everyone understood. They might need to kill Rimuru Tempest before he becomes the nightmare his dark self represented. As Constantine's portal opened to the House of Mystery, as his circle prepared to follow, Rimuru caught Batman's eyes. The Dark Knight who'd seen countless timelines fail, who carried contingency plans to kill gods, who understood better than anyone how easily protection became tyranny. If I can't beat this, Rimuru said clearly, if I start becoming what they showed me. I know, Batman replied. I'm already working on the contingency. It should have been threatening. Instead, it was strangely comforting. Someone was prepared to stop him if he fell. Someone who understood that power without limits was just another form of destruction. The portal swallowed them, carrying Rimuru toward magical quarantine and the fight against darkness that lived inside him now. But in the ruins of Gotham's skyline, the Batman who laughs laughter echoed from nowhere and everywhere. The seed was planted, now they'd see what grew. The House of Mystery existed in the spaces between spaces, a mansion that was geography, architecture, and cosmic middle finger to reality's rules simultaneously. Constantine led them through corridors that shouldn't connect, past rooms containing impossibilities, until they reached a chamber that felt older than magic itself. Rimuru lay in the center of a containment circle, not to imprison him, but to slow the dark multiverse corruption spreading through his essence like ink in water. Zatanna worked arcane geometries in the air, her backwards incantations weaving barriers between nightmare physics and prime Earth reality. Dr. Fate hovered at the circle's edge, Nabu's ancient consciousness analyzing corruption that predated even the Lords of Order. The darkness is learning, Fate announced grimly. Adapting to his demon lord nature, integrating with his slime physiology, corrupting the very skills that make him unique. If we don't excise it soon, there won't be enough of Rimuru Tempest left to save. Can't just cut it out. Constantine lit another cigarette despite Zatanna's glare. Dark multiverse matter isn't separate from him anymore. It's becoming him, like trying to remove someone's shadow. Benimaru paced the chamber's perimeter, flames flickering with barely contained rage. There has to be something. Magic, technology, divine intervention. We've contacted everyone, Wonder Woman reported from the doorway, her presence a reassuring anchor of divine strength and compassion. Shazam is consulting his pantheon. Cyborg reached out to the new gods of New Genesis. Even Superman asked the fortress's Kryptonian AI for solutions. And, Shion demanded. Wonder Woman's expression said everything. Nothing. The dark multiverse is antithetical to life, hope, and creation itself. Those who have survived corruption did so through, she hesitated. Through becoming what the darkness wanted, Batman finished, entering behind her. He'd been coordinating League response, establishing quarantine protocols in case Rimuru's corruption spread. Now he stood before the containment circle with detectives' assessment and warriors' readiness. Every case of dark multiverse survival we've documented involved the victim embracing the nightmare, becoming a dark multiverse entity themselves. The Batman who laughs, the Devastator. All of them chose corruption over death. Master Rimuru would never, Shuna started. Wouldn't he? Diablo's voice cut through with primordial honesty. If the choice was corruption or death, leaving his people forever stranded, abandoning Tempest Federation to whatever fate awaits without him, would he choose noble death over corrupted survival? Silence answered because everyone knew the truth. Rimuru Tempest protected his people above all else, even above his own soul. Inside the containment circle, Rimuru's consciousness fragmented across timelines. Raphael struggled to maintain coherent analysis as dark multiverse visions flooded his awareness. A timeline where he consumed the Justice League to protect Earth more efficiently. A reality where he dominated his subordinates' wills completely, creating perfect unity through absolute control. A world where the Tempest Federation conquered dimensions, spreading peace through overwhelming force. Each vision carried seductive logic. Each showed genuine threats eliminated, suffering prevented, and perfect order maintained. And each required him to sacrifice everything that made protection meaningful: choice, freedom, the messy, beautiful chaos of beings choosing cooperation over compulsion. This is what power becomes, Dark Rimuru's voice whispered from within. You've always known it. Every demon lord you defeated chose domination because it works. Clayman failed because he was weak, not because tyranny is wrong. You're just afraid to admit that absolute protection requires absolute control. No, Rimuru fought back through fractured consciousness. I've seen true leaders, Gaze of Stranov who died for his principles, Shuna who rules through wisdom not force, even Superman he could conquer Earth in an afternoon but chooses partnership instead. And look where Superman's choice led, the darkness countered. Injustice timeline. When his wife died, when he finally saw that restraint only enables evil, he took control, became the ruler Earth needed, strong, decisive, unopposed. And opposed by everyone who loved him, Rimuru shot back. Batman, Wonder Woman, the entire insurgency. He gained peace and lost everything that made peace worth having. The argument raged inside his dissolving consciousness while outside, the Justice League and his circle debated desperate measures. Phantom Stranger, Constantine said suddenly, addressing empty air. I know you're watching. This is exactly the kind of cosmic balance crisis you exist to solve. Little help here. Reality shimmered, and a figure materialized wearing anachronistic clothing and an expression of infinite sadness. The Phantom Stranger, agent of the presence, walker between worlds, witness to humanity's endless moral struggles. John Constantine, the stranger's voice carried the weight of eons. You know I cannot directly intervene in free will. Rimuru Tempest faces a choice only he can make. Bloody, useless, mystical guidelines, Constantine muttered. However, the stranger continued, approaching the containment circle, I can offer perspective. He looked directly at Rimuru despite the dimensional barriers. Demon Lord Rimuru Tempest, You stand at a crossroads every leader eventually faces. The question is not whether absolute power corrupts absolutely, it does. The question is whether you're strong enough to wield power while refusing absolutism. Through the haze of corruption, Rimuru focused on the stranger's words. In this universe, the stranger explained, you've witnessed both extremes. Superman who holds godlike power yet submits to human law and morality, and Superman of injustice who embraced absolute control to prevent suffering. Both started with identical intentions, only their choices differed. How do I choose correctly? Rimuru managed to speak aloud, voice distorted by dark matter influence. You don't, the stranger replied. Correct choices are myths comfortable people tell themselves. You choose what you can live with, what can die for, what you'll become to protect what you love. He paused. The dark multiverse shows you futures where you embrace tyranny, but those are not the only futures. Infinite timelines exist where you maintain your principles despite the cost. The question is, which future do you have the courage to build? Courage? Rimuru laughed bitterly. I consumed the dimensional breach because I was terrified of what they'd do to my world, to this world. That wasn't courage, it was desperation. Courage and desperation are often identical, Batman spoke from outside the circle. I've operated on both for years. Can't always tell them apart in the moment. Superman stepped forward, cape settling around his shoulders like a mantle of hope itself. Rimuru, I've been where you are, not corrupted by dark multiverse, but facing the choice between power's ease and principle's difficulty. After Lois died in that other timeline, after the Joker's trick, I could have prevented all future suffering by taking control. The power was there. The justification was there. The only thing stopping me was the belief that freedom mattered more than safety. But people died because of that belief, Rimuru countered. People you could have saved by being more decisive, more controlling, more like a tyrant, Superman finished. Yes, and I live with that cost daily. Every criminal I don't kill who goes on to harm others. Every disaster I can't prevent because I'm choosing to inspire rather than dominate. It's the hardest thing I do, holding power I could use to fix everything and choosing not to. Wonder Woman joined him. In Amazon culture, we have a saying, the strongest warriors know when not to strike. True strength isn't using power maximally, it's knowing when restraint serves better than force. Pretty words, the darkness inside Rimuru hissed. But your subordinates are still stranded. Tempest Federation is still leaderless. Your people are still suffering your absence. How does restraint help them? And there it was, the core wound the corruption exploited. Rimuru's people needed him. Every moment spent fighting dark multiverse infection was a moment he wasn't protecting them, leading them, ensuring their safety. The darkness offered a simple solution. Embrace corruption, gain power, tear through dimensions to return home, and dominate any threat permanently. All it cost was his soul. Diablo, Rimuru called out weakly. You've existed since before creation. You've seen civilizations rise and fall. Tell me honestly, does power inevitably corrupt? The primordial demon considered, golden eyes reflecting eons of observation. Power reveals, Master Rimuru. It doesn't corrupt so much as illuminate what was always present. The capacity for tyranny exists in everyone who cares enough to protect something. The difference is... He paused, choosing words carefully. The difference is whether you can remember why you wanted power in the first place. I wanted to protect people, Rimuru whispered. Build a place where different races could coexist peacefully. And does that goal require them to have no choice in the matter? Diablo asked gently. Does protection mean controlling every variable, or does it mean creating conditions where people can choose their own paths safely? The question cut through dark, multiverse whispers like a blade through shadow. Rimuru thought of the Tempest Federation, built not through domination but through alliances. Goblins are choosing to follow him, dwarves choosing a partnership. Even the orcs, after their lord fell, chose integration over extermination. He'd never forced absolute loyalty. He'd earned it through proving that protection didn't require slavery. Raphael, Rimuru commanded his ultimate skill with renewed focus. Stop trying to eliminate the dark multiverse corruption. Instead, analyze it, understand it, integrate it without letting it control us. Notice, proposal carries significant risk. Dark multiverse matter is designed to corrupt. Voluntary integration may. I'm not integrating its purpose, Rimuru clarified. I'm integrating the knowledge. Every dark timeline showed me what happens when I fail, when I choose wrong. That information has value if I don't let it dictate my choices. Constantine whistled low. He's going to try containing it rather than destroying it. Ballsy, stupid but ballsy. It might work, Dr. Fate's voice carried surprised respect. The Lords of Order contain chaos without being consumed by it, balanced through acknowledgement rather than denial. Or he becomes exactly what the Batman who laughs wanted, Batman countered. Corrupted from within, convinced he's maintaining control while darkness steers him incrementally toward tyranny. Then watch me, Rimuru said with sudden clarity, sitting up inside the containment circle despite the magical barriers trying to restrain him. All of you, Justice League, my circle, the magical community, watch me, question me, challenge me when I start justifying control as protection. Be the external conscience I need because power makes internal conscience unreliable. He looked directly at Batman. You keep contingency plans to stop the Justice League if they go rogue. Make one for me, a real one. And if I ever cross the line from protection to domination, use it. Batman's expression was unreadable behind the cowl, but something shifted in his posture. You're asking me to plan your execution. I'm asking you to ensure that if I become the monster, someone can stop me. That's not execution planning, it's responsibility. The dark multiverse corruption raged against this choice, trying to convince Rimuru that accepting potential opposition was a weakness. But Raphael worked with new parameters, not destroying the darkness but quarantining it, studying it, using its knowledge while rejecting its philosophy. The process was agony. Dark matter and demon lord essence are grinding against each other, nightmare physics trying to rewrite his fundamental nature. But Rimuru held firm to one truth. He'd rather die free than live as a tyrant, even a well-intentioned one. Slowly, impossibly, the corruption stabilized. Not eliminated but contained. A darkness inside him that whispered temptations but no longer controlled his actions. Like Batman's rage, Superman's potential for absolute power, Wonder Woman's warrior instinct to kill, managed, acknowledged, never fully trusted but never fully surrendered to either. The containment circle's magical barriers flickered and died. Rimuru stood, body smoking with residual dark matter but consciousness his own. How do you feel? Zatanna asked carefully. Like I'm carrying a piece of the dark multiverse inside me, Rimuru answered honestly. Like one bad day could tip me toward becoming what I fought. Like I need people around me who'll stop me if that happens. Good, Batman said simply. That awareness is what separates you from the ones who fell. Superman extended his hand. Welcome to the club. Everyone at this power level carries darkness. The question is what we do with it. Rimuru took the hand, Kryptonian strength meeting demon lord power in grip of mutual respect and understanding. The League is offering full cooperation protocols, Wonder Woman announced. Not membership, you were clear about independence, but coordinated response to major threats, shared intelligence, and yes, oversight. We'll also be watching, Constantine added with a cigarette-stained grin. Magical community doesn't trust easily. But you've earned provisional, not completely terrible status. And I've already begun your contingency plan, Batman stated flatly. Multiple scenarios, various power levels, fail-safes if you're corrupted, mind-controlled, or simply make catastrophically poor decisions. It should have felt like a threat. Instead, it felt like being trusted enough to be considered dangerous, like being taken seriously as both ally and potential enemy. What about Darkseid? Shion asked the question everyone was avoiding. The Fury's attack, his interest in Master Rimuru, that doesn't just disappear. No, Superman agreed grimly. Darkseid plays long games. He'll return, probably with a new strategy now that direct recruitment failed. Let him come. Benimaru's flames blazed with confidence. We've faced his furies, survived dark multiverse corruption. We're not the confused refugees who arrived weeks ago. Rimuru felt the truth of that. They'd adapted to DC Universe's power scale, integrated with its magical framework, established themselves as neither pure heroes nor villains but something in between, protectors willing to make hard choices but refusing to become tyrants. There's still the question of getting home, Shuna said softly. Tempest Federation needs us. The phantom stranger, still present though easily forgotten, finally spoke again. The dimensional breach you consumed contained coordinates, mathematical signatures of your home reality. With time, study, and assistance from those versed in multiversal travel, return may be possible. How long? Rimuru asked. Months, perhaps years. The multiverse is vast, and your world exists beyond standard dimensional maps. Years, his people are facing that absence, but looking at his circle, Benimaru's determination, Shin's loyalty, Diablo's ancient wisdom, Shuna's gentle strength, Rimuru knew they'd survive. He'd built Tempest Federation on principles that didn't require his constant presence. Trust, cooperation, mutual protection. If he'd created a nation that collapsed without him, he'd have already failed as a leader. Then we adapt, Rimuru decided. Make ourselves useful here while working toward home. Help with threats that need our unique abilities. Learn from this universe's heroes and their struggles with power. And when we return, he paused, feeling the dark multiverse corruption stir at the thought, we'll bring back wisdom about what leadership should never become. Constantine raised his flask. To the demon lord who chose the hard way, may you survive your own good intentions. They gathered in the House of Mystery's main hall. Justice League, Magical Community, and Tempest Federation's displaced circle. An unlikely alliance born from a cosmic accident and maintained through choices that could have gone differently at every turn. Outside the house's impossible geography, DC Universe continued its eternal dance between hope and darkness. Darkseid plotted on apocalypse. The dark multiverse whispered at reality's edges. Amanda Waller calculated how to exploit new variables. Lex Luthor filed away information for future use. But in this moment, in this space between spaces, Rimuru Tempest stood with allies who'd become something like friends, who'd watch him for signs of corruption, who'd stop him if necessary, who trusted him enough to prepare for his potential fall. It was the most hopeful thing he'd experienced since arriving in this universe of gods and monsters. One question, Flash spoke up, vibrating slightly with curiosity. The dark multiverse showed you becoming a tyrant, but you consumed that dimensional breach. Does that mean you absorbed those dark timeline possibilities? Rimuru felt Raphael's analysis confirming the disturbing truth. Yes, I carry knowledge of every way I could fail, every choice that leads to tyranny. It's educational. And terrifying, Batman added. Knowing exactly how you'd fall makes it easier to avoid those specific paths, but it also means you know the routes to absolute power if you ever decide the cost is worth it. Which is why you're all watching, Rimuru acknowledged. Why do I ask for contingencies? Because power plus knowledge of how to abuse it is the most dangerous combination possible. Superman's expression softened with understanding that came from personal experience. Welcome to the burden of godlike power, Rimuru. Every day you'll be tempted. Every crisis will whisper that control is simpler than cooperation. And every time you choose the hard way over the easy tyranny, you'll prove you're worthy of the power you hold. No pressure, Rimuru said with dark humor that made Constantine actually laugh. You'll do fine, Wonder Woman assured him. You've already made the hardest choice, acknowledging you could fall. Most who become tyrants never admit that possibility until it's too late. As the gathering dispersed, as the Justice League returned to their endless vigil and the magical community faded into their hidden corners, Rimuru stood with his circle one final time in the house's main hall. We're really doing this, Benimaru said. staying in a universe where gods are real and heroes can become dictators. Until we find our way home, Shuna corrected gently. This isn't abandonment, it's unexpected detour. A detour with Omega beams, speed force, and dark multiverse corruption, Souei observed. But we've survived worse. Have we though? Shion asked seriously. Master Rimuru carries darkness inside him now. We're adapting to a reality that could change us fundamentally. When we return home, will we even be the same people who left? Diablo smiled his ancient, knowing smile. Change is inevitable, young ones. The question is whether we change into something better or something worse. Master Rimuru chose growth over corruption, so shall we all. Rimuru felt the weight of leadership settle differently now. Not the comfortable authority of the Tempest Federation where his word was law and his people trusted implicitly, but the harder burden of proving worth daily, accepting oversight, maintaining principles when power made compromise seductive. This universe had taught him that protection without freedom was just another form of tyranny. That absolute power demanded absolute restraint. That the strongest warriors knew when not to strike, and the wisest rulers knew when to refuse power entirely. Lessons he'd carry back to Tempest Federation if they ever made it home. Let's get to work, Rimuru said finally. We've got a multiverse to navigate, a universe to help protect, and apparently contingency plans being made for our potential corruption. Typical Tuesday in DC Universe. His circle laughed, and in that moment of genuine connection, the darkness inside him quieted. Not eliminated, never fully trusted, but manageable. A reminder of what he could become if he ever forgot why power existed to serve, not rule. In the shadows of Apocalypse, Darkseid observed through Omega-powered awareness, nodding the Demon Lord's choice with interest. The mortal had rejected easy corruption, chosen hard virtue, disappointing in one sense, but in another, a being who could resist the dark multiverse while containing its power was a variable worth observing. The equation would balance eventually, all beings bent to inevitability. But for now, the Lord of Apocalypse could be patient. Time was infinite, and even the strongest wills eventually broke. In Gotham's shadows, Batman reviewed the contingency plan, 37 scenarios, each accounting for different corruption levels, power escalations, and moral compromises. The file was labeled simply, Tempest Protocol. He hoped he'd never need it, but hope wasn't a strategy, and strategy was what kept gods from becoming tyrants. And in the House of Mystery, as Constantine poured drinks and Zatanna shuffled cards, and the magical community settled into wary acceptance of their newest members, Rimuru Tempest felt something he hadn't experienced since arriving in DC Universe. Not comfort, not safety, but something more valuable, purpose, challenge. The possibility that surviving this universe might make him a better leader than the one who'd left Tempest Federation. The darkness inside him whispered that this was naive, that hardship didn't improve, it corrupted, that every universe was just another lesson in why control outweighed freedom. But Rimuru had allies now who'd proven otherwise. Heroes who chose principle over expedience daily. A Dark Knight who channeled rage into justice. A Kryptonian who wielded godhood with human restraint. A warrior goddess who balanced strength with wisdom. If they could carry darkness without becoming it, so could he. The journey home would be long, the challenges ahead immense, the temptations are constant. But for the first time since arriving in this universe of gods and shadows, Rimuru Tempest believed they might actually make it, not just survive, but return better than they'd left. Hope shone brightest in the darkest night, and he was learning to carry both.